Welcome, folks, to tip number 11 in ARG's Top 15 Tips for 2015. In this segment, we are going to be discussing considerations of upping your bandwidth so you and your stakeholders and your company can get more with more. The real tenet of this conversation is the fact that we enjoy a unique paradigm these days. Despite the fact that we're relying so much on having more bandwidth to conduct purposeful business, whether it be via social media, via email, via file exchange, the reality is, conveniently for us, is that the cost of bandwidth and the availability of bandwidth has both decreased on the cost but increased on the capacity. So do you feel you need more bandwidth? Do you ever feel like that ocean of bandwidth has dried up, and that maybe even despite trying to avoid surfing by your fellow coworker, that there's just not enough to go around? And again, that is really what I believe most organizations and individuals are feeling these days, because we are so reliant on availability over the internet to conduct our purposeful business. But can anyone say exactly how much is best? But where do we get to in terms of how we feel and our coworkers feel we're in a smooth sailing mode? Is there an art more so than a science in this? Maybe not. Maybe with the fact that the cost of bandwidth is so rapidly decreasing and its availability of choices and options is increasing, we don't need necessarily to be that very experienced sailor. So let's talk about that. What happens in an internet minute these days? This slide depicts something very interesting. You know, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, those things may have earlier been considered unpurposeful, or I should say maybe non-business. But in fact, many, many companies rely on social media to get their message out. Take a look at how many apps are downloaded on an internet connection, over the internet, 47,000 in a minute. Notice that almost 640,000 gigabytes of global IP data are transferred in an internet minute. These things, these statistics are in fact meant to wow you. It's trying to convey that internet is where business is conducted, and if as an organization we trend to think that it's such a precious resource that we're not willing to spend money on it, perhaps I would argue that's maybe mentality from the early 2000s, when all you could get was DSL, or all you could get was cable modem at very low speeds. So much has changed. Again, in 2015, tip number 11 from ARG's perspective is to up your bandwidth, get more with more. Big pipes spell productivity through email and file sharing, personalized client services via web help desk and web-based training. My point is that we are looking more for media that enables you to differentiate yourself. It personalizes the dialogue, real-time collaboration, video, desktop sharing, whereas maybe in the late 90s and early 2000s, these all sounded like aspirations and a wish list. The fact of the matter is that bandwidth is now coming down in terms of cost, but yet so readily available in terms of increasing capacity. These are the way we do business these days. And finally, cloud access. Software as a service and recovery infrastructure. SaaS has penetrated our lives, probably beginning with things like PeopleSoft and CRM, all those applications. Yes, they do require bandwidth, but it is a mainstay of how people conduct business these days. So what is the great news, you ask? Well, we've actually alluded to it throughout the theme of this brief discussion. Access costs, they're a-tumbling in the core. In the core, what does that mean? All of your large ISPs are busily moving to fiber, and now things of line speeds of not necessarily 10 gigabit, but now hundreds gigabits of throughput are the norm. In the local loop, we benefit because people are trying to be competitive in their fiber placement. It's no longer just relegated to the Verizons of the world. The local phone companies don't hold exclusivity on what we call the last mile access. Innovative technologies like Ethernet over copper, they can derive speeds of now approaching 100 meg to even 150 meg, so they begin to approach fiber-like characteristics, albeit on the low end. And broadband cable is making a strong penetration. In the cloud, we have data centers that cross-connect at 10 gig connections. And they do this purposefully so because they're in the business of enabling a cohabitation environment that lets a Salesforce.com and a AWS platform all intermingle. The chart really says it all. From 1999 to 2013, bandwidth costs have been declining on an annual rate of 27%. So take a look at the far right-hand corner, and now you can get basically in increments of meg at $16 per meg. That was unheard of in 2000, and this is the new world. Counterintuitive, aka more bandwidth for significantly less money, but the reality is, because of what we show you on the left-hand side, all these things are materializing in such an aggressive discounting of cost per meg. Embrace the new bandwidth math. This is really, we're having a little fun with this, but that's the whole message of this story. Embrace the new bandwidth math. Give your users much more for way less. So stop counting your bandwidth calories. This is not the days of DSL and cable modem. You can afford to buy and consume more. Be prepared for the new speed test. How fast users are going to say thanks for how fast they can get their job done. And take credit for the 43% growth in your business that things like upping your bandwidth will achieve. There's a little subtlety there to tout ARG's growth. Thanks to folks like yourself, our constituents, and our clients, we enjoyed a 43% growth in our business last year in 2014. And frankly, in 2013, we hope that by sending messages like our top 15 tips for 2015, you too can enjoy the same growth. So finally, rest easy knowing you are now so ready for the cloud. The cloud is going to change everything in how we conduct our business, how we do our business, and how our business functions. Upping your bandwidth is going to get you prepared for having those applications outside of the telephone closet while not diminishing the user experience. To keep this into perspective, when going to a data center, now we can get circuits that are priced at a gigabit level for sub $1,000. Now, that's not going to be the norm for everybody, but the model of how data centers are making themselves accessible and purposefully so, a lot of fiber carriers are now positioning themselves to emanate from the data center and touch as many commercial buildings in a region as possible. It is a build it and they will come, because this is how the business environment is changing with, frankly, in our country and albeit globally. So in 2015, add more bandwidth. Don't be shy. Let go of the 2012 mentality. Bandwidth need not cost more. Improved performance need not cost more. And to quote Vice President Al Gore, affordable global bandwidth is the most convenient truth for 2015. Thank you.